Hey everybody, KMO here, demonstrating to you that you're not nearly as cool as I am because you probably don't have an extra environmentalist t-shirt. That's how cool I am. But no, today I'm going to talk a bit more about the four books, which are not a series, but I'm doing a series of video reviews, or not reviews so much as just videos in which I dig randomly into one of these four books and present something for consideration. I actually saw somebody in real life, meet space today, who watches these videos and who said, hey, did you ever get to that final book in the not series of four? The final book being AI Superpowers, Silicon Valley, China, and the New World Order by Kai-Fu Lee. And I'm not going to repeat what I said to my friend because, well, what I feared would happen with these four audiobooks has already happened with this one. It has been so long since I listened to the audiobook of AI Superpowers, I don't remember what I learned in that book. I only remember the judgment that I made about it as I was reading it. So I need to revisit it before I can really say anything about it. So instead, I'm going to go back to Surveillance Capitalism, or The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. I've been talking about these as a series, which isn't a series, of audiobooks, but with this one, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, I actually went and I bought the Kindle version. So now I'm switching back and forth between re-listening and reading. And sometimes I will listen, and if something is really juicy, then I will find out where in the text it is and go and read it. It's great. I'm going to have to revisit AI Superpowers before I really say anything about it. And that's largely because I think I'm really conflating a lot of what I learned about the rise of the Chinese version of Silicon Valley, the BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, and a special incubation zone that the Chinese government set up with some creative use of eminent domain, or whatever they call it over there, basically saying, hey, I know you live there, you work there, you've been using this space for your purposes, but we have a better idea. Get out. So it goes. It happens here too. So I don't remember. There are some things that I know about the history of the BAT, and I don't remember which bits of it I picked up from AI Superpowers and which bits I picked up from The Big Nine by Amy Webb. So I'm gonna have a lot of driving to do this weekend. I'm gonna be traveling, so I am going to revisit at least some of AI Superpowers to get back in my memory what was specific to that book. And then I'll say something about it next week. But for the remainder of this video, and I am feeling much better today, much better than I was yesterday. Thank you to everybody who sent well wishes. What I am going to do today, of course, is return to The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff, because one of the things that she's talking about in the sections that I'm revisiting right now is the notion of technological determinism, which is to say that, technology and government and society all have a trajectory. They have momentum behind them. And we can't just decide from moment to moment, what sort of economy we're going to have, what sort of technological infrastructure we're going to have. We have what we have. We build from where we are, which lends itself to the idea that really we don't have a lot of choice. Technology and the business culture that incubates it and puts it out there to us for us to buy or not, it's doing what it's doing, it's going where it's going. We can influence it somewhat with our choices, but really there's no point or no hope of trying to govern it rationally with legislation or regulation. In fact, that is explicit in Amy Webb's book, that Capitol Hill should just keep its hands off of AI and let Silicon Valley do what Silicon Valley does. That's not so much an argument for technological determinism as it is just bypassing the need for such an argument and just saying, look, citizens and their representatives in government have no business answering any of the questions that Shoshana Zuboff asks time and again in her book, which is who knows, who decides, and who decides who decides. Silicon Valley knows, Silicon Valley decides, Silicon Valley decides that it gets to decide. Who knows? So when I first started talking about The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff, I said I could do, for years, I could just read a paragraph or a couple of sentences from the book and then spend several minutes unpacking them, and that would give me material for these videos going forward, in perpetuity, really. And so today I'm going to re-demonstrate that is the fact. There is a section in a chapter, it's called Men Made It. And she starts out talking about, the book, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Early in the book, the family, is it the Jode family? I forget the name of the family from the story, but the family is in Oklahoma. And it is the Dust Bowl, and there have been crop failures, and people can't pay their loans, and the bank shows up basically to kick people out of their houses and have an auction right then and there and sell off, all the farm equipment and basically put people out. And a bank representative shows up to foreclose on a property, and he says, look, I don't like this any more than you do. Men work in banks. Men don't like what the banks do, but they don't have any choice in the matter. This is an inevitability argument. This is more of a capitalist inevitability argument than a technological one. But it's the same species of argument, saying, look, there are institutional forces at work, there are non-personal forces at work, non-human forces at work. They all have a certain logic by which they have to operate, and they just don't get to make moral choices about whether or not to put somebody out of their home. The relentless logic of capitalism dictates that we must do things a certain way even if we don't like it. And that's bullshit. So says Shoshana Zuboff, although she doesn't use the word bullshit because she is more articulate than I am. So I want to read a quote from this section of this chapter of this book. Shoshana Zuboff writes, "Every doctrine of inevitability carries a weaponized virus of moral nihilism, programmed to target human agency and delete resistance and creativity from the text of human possibility. Inevitability rhetoric is a cunning fraud designed to render us helpless and passive in the face of implacable forces that are and must always be indifferent to the merely human. This is the world of the roboticized interface, where technologies work their will, resolutely protecting power from challenge." So the basic message of technological determinism is that we don't get to decide. And that's what Shoshana Zuboff means when she talks about how this inevitability rhetoric carries within it a weaponized virus of moral nihilism. The belief that the path that technology will take and how it will interface with society and culture and the economy is not really anything that you or I have any say in. So goes the logic of technological inevitability. And yet one of the points she's trying to make in the book is that these decisions about how the future looks, what's going to happen, they change very quickly. Because even into the 21st century, now we hear about smart homes filled with smart devices that know what you need. Do you need the temperature up? Do you need the lights down? Do you need to order more milk? Are you out of laundry detergent? The house is smart. It has smart devices in it, which interface with all the retailers and the providers of services and the Internet of Things. And it basically does things for you. But in the smart home paradigm, you don't know who is receiving information from the devices in your home because that is none of your business. You don't know. You don't get to decide who decides who knows what. It's none of your business. That's the current paradigm. But as recently as I think like 2004, 2005, people were talking about not the smart home, but the aware home. And in the paradigm of the aware home, various devices are generating behavioral data, but it is the homeowner or the resident who gets to decide what information is collected, who it is shared with, and to what use it is put. There's just about a decade between the paradigm of the aware home and the current smart home. And the difference between the two is that, in that decade, basically since September 11th, 2001, and Google's immediate response to it, which I can't get into in this video, that's a video unto itself, a paradigm of surveillance capitalism has grown up. Google has figured out how to monetize the data that we generate as we use the tools that they give us. And Google has been supported by intelligence agencies and the so-called deep state in this endeavor, because the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, they all know that they have limitations on their reach, on the scope of their actions. They have to answer to the Constitution, to Congress, to the Supreme Court, to the executive. There are checks on their power. But this vista, this new frontier of surveillance capitalism is so far undefined, and because the maxim is move fast and break things and basically stay not only ahead of the ability of Capitol Hill to govern or to regulate how this technology is used, but really even to stay ahead of government's ability to understand what's happening in technology. That's why it is so important for Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley companies, to move fast and break things and to basically, follow that law of retrodiction, which says that it is easier to get forgiveness than permission. To just go ahead and push in the direction of unlimited surveillance capitalism, and then when they get caught doing something obviously undefensible, throw up their arms and say, "Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry. We didn't mean for it to go down quite that way." Or at least we didn't intend for you to know that we intended for it to go down just that way. Or really what's at issue here is your irrational reaction to what we have done. And we're really sorry for your irrational reaction. We'll do better next time. That's the message of Silicon Valley. According to Shoshana Zuboff, who is the absolute antithesis in this regard to Amy Webb. Amy Webb, who says, "Hey, Silicon Valley, I'm on your side. I agree. These people who use your products, they don't have any business regulating what you do. The people that they elect to govern this country, to make the laws and enforce the laws, those people don't have any business governing what you do, Silicon Valley. I'm on your side. I think you, Silicon Valley, you, the G Mafia, are really the final arbiters of what can be done, what should be done, and who gets to decide what can and should be done." Okay, so I think even though I haven't really touched on AI superpowers just yet, you're getting a pretty good idea of how these 4 books shake out in terms of what they're advocating. Shoshana Zuboff is basically advocating human autonomy. And Amy Webb is basically advocating move fast, break things, don't let the government get in your way. Silicon Valley. Okay, that's all for now. I will talk to you again tomorrow.